All right. So welcome to all of you. This is our third day of 7 days of rest. So the first day, we talked about the ancient mother. And my intention was that you each experience that feminine within you. And then we got to do that the second day with through the water, who is feminine. So we actually experienced the waters within us and learned more about those feminine principles. And if you want to know more about the feminine principles, you may not find them all in a book, but you can sit with the river. You can sit with a glass of water like we did yesterday. You can sit with the waters within you and communicate, speak with them, and above all, listen to what she wants to say. So today we're talking about the ancient father, and the first embodiment of the ancient original masculine were the elements of air and fire, just like the first embodiment of the feminine principles were water and earth. So today we're going to take a look at the elements of air and fire within our own being, so that we can learn those masculine principles from the inside out. And then, now that we've already experienced the feminine principles, the unity of those is critical to returning to balance on the earth. And the masculine principles are unity in action. It's that action piece. What does that look like? How do we put that into action? And since we each have the elements of earth and water and air and fire within us, we can, that unity within ourselves
Join the meeting
is very important. Okay. So finding that unity within ourselves is really the first order, because we cannot hold a space for unity in our environment, with our family, on the globe, or in the cosmos. We can't heal that hole in the cosmos until we have accepted that wholeness within ourselves. We can't give what we don't have. So this progression that we're in, going deeper and deeper, is critical to our own well-being, and it's critical to the well-being of the whole web of life. So I keep putting it from the microcosm into the macrocosm, and the macrocosm comes back into the microcosm, because there is no separation, as we've said. So, and welcome, is that David who just came in?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. So we're just going to go into an opening meditation, tuning into the air, first of all, with our breath. Breathe in, notice what that air feels like as it moves through your nostrils. As it moves into your lungs. And remember, from the very first welcome, Sarah. Thank you for joining us. We're in a meditation now, and just breathing in the air, breathing in the element of air, which encompasses more than just oxygen and hydrogen and nitrogen or whatever is in the air. It encompasses the entire unified field and all of the resources that are infinitely available to us in that unified field. So as we breathe in the air, we are also breathing in the space within which that air exists. And space is the fifth element, because it holds all of the elements together. It holds all life together. That's the unified field. So as we continue to breathe in that air, follow it into your lungs, and then continue following it as the lungs disperse that air into the cells, into the organs, into the glands. Every cell in our body needs the resources from the air and the space. Breathing that in, feeling every cell filling with everything that it needs. Because we understand that we can feed every cell. There are breatharians who don't eat food. They simply breathe in all of these resources from the unified field. And I'm not suggesting that, but in this moment, in each moment, we can still take in everything we need. And within this air and space that we're breathing, there is light, there are colors, there are etheric gels, harmonics, nutrients, everything, minerals, all of the resources of the earth. Feel yourself filling and bring up that element, that quality of gratitude to mix with this air, to flow through you so that you're feeling joy as you breathe, breathing in everything that you need. And then just, I'll be quiet for a few moments, and in that silence, listen to the air. Ask the air, is there anything that you would like me to know about you? Thank you for filling me with everything that I need. So just go move into that silence and listen. Mm. Continue to feel that quality filling you with every breath that you take. Notice how your body responds to the presence of this air. And holding all that you just received from the air, we're going to expand our focus now to include the air and also to include that next element of density. Each of the elements are a little more dense. Air, well, space is the least dense, then air has a little more density. Fire has a little more density. Water has a little more density. And then earth is the most dense, the most grounding of all of the elements. So as we move into the fire, the other element that carries the masculine principles, notice how the air and the fire work in partnership in your body, the air moving that fire through. And if the fire starts to dim, the fire starts to dim its light, then breathing in air can stoke that fire. And if there's too much fire, we can calm down the air to regulate the balance of those two elements. And we can also use the element of water. When there's too much fire, what do? You bring in the feminine. You balance it out because the water can completely put out the fire, or it can just bring it down to a more balanced level. So as we tune into the fire, if you have already eaten your breakfast this morning, or wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is, if you have food in your belly, move into that fire of digestion. And if it needs some air, breathe in a bigger breath so that that fire can have what it needs to fully digest those foods and bring that energy into every cell of your body. When's the last time you felt passion? That fire that is in the passion. And if that needs to be stoked, breathe into that. Balance it in whatever way that passion needs to be balanced. And notice that every mechanism within your being, every system requires this fire element and the air. And extend out into every cell, every molecule, become aware of all of the systems of your being and how fire is such an essential element. What does it do for you? How does it support life? So now we're going to take a moment and go into that partnership between the fire and the air and ask to learn more about those elements in community, in partnership with each other. So just listen in the silence and notice what comes to you. Before we close this visualization, meditation, prayer to the air and the fire, I invite you to notice how these elements feel in your body compared to those elements of water and earth. That will help to inform you of the qualities that air and fire hold. And now to support the integration of your awareness, your relationship with these qualities within you, I invite you to acknowledge all of the elements within your being because they are your foundational substance. And that foundational substance, as it comes into the essence of who you are and fully grounds in you, you have more resources available to you because you are grounded and connected with the earth, and you are grounded and connected with all that is. Thank the elements. Martina, we're just finishing up the opening meditation, thanking all the elements within our being and thanking the relationship and the partnership and the coherence between these elements when they are in balance. Honoring the elements, honoring the 7 directions, the energy to the east, the energy to the south, the energy to the west, the north, above, below, and then move into your heart space and place your hands there if that supports you. And breathe in the air. Breathe the air into the fire, into the water, into the earth within you from all directions, taking in all of the qualities of those directions into the center of your being, that you may experience and remember your oneness with all of those beings, because each of the elements and each of the directions are alive. There is consciousness there. See yourself as part of all of it, because you are part of all of it. When you feel that wholeness, that connection, that support coming from every direction, gently open your eyes from that place of gratitude and wholeness. And just notice how you feel as you look around you, as you be in the space that you're in. And you recognize that being is being a part of the web of life. Blessed be, and so it is. So, when you're ready, if there's anything you'd like to share about that. Yes? Oh, okay. Nope, I thought someone just joined us. I guess not. So, would anyone like to share? Just taking it all in is waiting room. Whoops. Thank you for coming back, Roxanne. um, so there may not be words. That goes, do you feel the depth? Yes. Roxanne, did you want to share something?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're having a huge snowstorm where I live and my computer jumped out.
Oh, well, I'm so glad that you came back.
Yes. I do have something to add to that, though.
Yay, thank you.
The, the feeling of peace that I get when I work around fire. I live in the high mountains, and the only way that I heat my home is through wood. So I have a wonderful relationship
Mm,
and loving respect for fire. Wind has always touched my heart, so the combination of those two have always been very powerful for me.
mm,
So thank you for that meditation, the peace and quiet that I felt from that, and the restoring energy
mm.
was very powerful.
Oh,
Thank you.
wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You
There
bet.
is so much power that's available to us. Um, so uh, Sarah is saying she doesn't have a microphone today, so she can't add, but definitely put in the chat whatever you are feeling, and I can share that with the group, assuming that I'm not 100% great at at doing this and reading text, but I try. So um and Sarah, if I do miss something and I don't comment on it, just put your hand up and I will look at the chat so I will know that I've missed something. Yay. Okay. So it is powerful when we connect with our origins. There is so much that over all of these millennia that humanity has continued to continue that has been lost. And we can regain that by connecting with the elements, by being who we're meant to be, by returning to that unity with all life as our family, as our brothers and sisters, we carry all of that inside us. And there's no way that we don't have it, but there is a way that we can forget that we have it. So it's always present. Just if any of you want to share how it felt to tune in to those elements within you, like as Roxanne just mentioned, she experienced peace in that. It's a returning to our origins when we go back to the elemental level of our being. And once we have the experience of returning to our origins, we never really not know it again. But we need a reference point in this body, in this time, to be able to have that memory, to be able to know that we'll never not know that again. And it's always available to return it. We can simply, anytime you want to go back here and you are like, I don't remember how that happened, just go back to the memory of what it felt like when we were in that meditation, and you'll be there instantly. And your cells don't know the difference from if you're out in nature just taking in all the elements or imagining them in your head. Your cells are still opening up to receive those resources that are now available to you because you are connected again. So there's so much that we can do when we work with them. Sari, were you going to say something?
I could also share something because I was sort of or what I noticed very much was when we were connecting the fire with the water and the earth, especially the fire with the water. I noticed, oh, then the passion comes in. So
Yes.
if it's just air and fire, no, but with the water, then the passion comes in. And I can then my heart alive. It's really the combination that does it for me. Yeah, I was just surprised, like, oh, that's how it works within my body apparently, or in my psyche. And also the air said, I like to dance through you. I also like to dance. I I dance with the elements and a lot. And I used to always dance with the wind before I started to do it like on a regular basis. But the wind said, or the air said, I like to dance through you, swirling. I like to swirl also, like in the physical body. And playing around, fooling around. It's nice to, vision the air also sort of. So I remember like air is also, it brings humor, it brings lightness
Hmm.
in my perception. Yeah.
And that is another critical piece. Those qualities of lightness and humor and laughter brings out our inner children, and they want to play. They need to play. And they're still alive and well in us. And if we give up play, oh, that just feels so sad. We can't give up play.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that joy, that creativity, that awe of seeing the world as if we've never seen it before, and looking at whatever we're looking at and saying, wow, it's all new today. It's different because I'm different and I'm seeing it differently. And we are on a constant, our evolutionary path is one of growth and expansion. And as our consciousness expands, we see differently. As we transcend some of this old density that we're breaking out of, we see the world. Have you ever climbed a mountain and noticed the difference in the view from the top versus the bottom? Yeah. So as we raise our consciousness level, we get to see more of the big picture. And that big picture is what holds everything together. And it is that union between the masculine and the feminine. We said this yesterday, and for Roxanne and Sarah and David, who weren't here yesterday or at the first time, the videos are available. Yesterday's video is a little shorter because I forgot to turn on the recording when we started, but you get a lot of it. So when you start bringing it all together, it makes more sense. When my oldest daughter went to college, she called me like within the first 2 weeks of being there. She was crying. She said, Mom, I feel lost. I don't know what to do. Everyone around me knows exactly what they want to study and where they're going, and I don't have a clue. And she just felt so inadequate. And I didn't laugh, but I talked to her about that every day is an opportunity for her to get closer to what her role in this world is, to finding her purpose. And I suggested that she get a piece of paper and carry it around, a little pad of paper, and carry it around with her. And every day, if something sparks inspiration, if something sparks curiosity or awe or something in her, to write it down. And I said, if you do that every day, you will collect all the pieces to your puzzle. And by the time you finish college, you will have your resume written on that notepad, because it's all the things that inspire you and light you up. And you'll know exactly how to follow that path. So I bought a puzzle, and I never showed her the box or the pieces. The picture that puzzle was. I just started sending her puzzle pieces to remind her to find those puzzle pieces every single day in her life. And it just seemed quite symbolic, and it actually, I think it helped me more than it helped her. But it's an interesting way to view our life, seeing it as a scavenger hunt. Every day we find new clues to who we are. And when we connect with nature, she will show us. Nature wants us to remember. Nature wants us to come home to who we are, to that family. Yes, Martina?
Hi, Deborah. Just listening to you talk, has brought up a memory, quite a magical event. It was simple, nothing like wow, but it proved to me that nature does have a consciousness, or that some higher power can talk to us in little ways, like sending us signs that only we can understand and click with us. And basically what happened, I was out one sunny day, I was picking up trash out of a local park that was very notorious for illegal dumping and antisocial behavior. And I was really down the dumps. I felt like, is this really doing anything? Am I
Yeah.
really making a difference? I feel like nothing is changing. And I was kind of lured over to the river. There's a beautiful river flowing through it. And I was just standing above the river, looking down, watching the water flow, just really feeling down the dumps. And then out of nowhere comes a mama duck and three adorable little ducklings. And what's extraordinary about that is that river, very polluted, very little wildlife. So to see, even just see those animals just flutter past was like, check this out, you are doing something. You are making a difference. You are restoring the balance. And just as mysteriously as they appeared, they disappeared. I tried following them further downstream, but I couldn't find them anywhere. They just vanished as if they were never there. And that's not the first time an incident like that has happened. There have been like certain times where it just feels like I'm being sent a message either from nature or a higher consciousness. So I totally agree with you that when we come in sync with nature, when we link up with nature, it does speak back. It is alive. There is a consciousness there in the fire, the air, the water, the earth. It's there.
The nature of nature is reciprocity. And we have lost that. I mean, we talk about our first nature and our second nature. And I think we need to go back to our first nature. And most of that first nature we have forgotten. And that is that you don't take anything without giving back. That reciprocity is critical. And when nature receives from us, she always gives back. And that enhances the cycle of life. It enhances all life. Like I mentioned yesterday, just on a hike, just in awe of the beauty of everything that I was seeing. I was just in a mode of appreciation and prayer, and the whole hike. And I sat down a couple of times and meditated along that way. And the rocks, the trees, all of nature just said, do you realize, do you have any idea how many people walk through here and don't even see us? There's no acknowledgement. And it's just, they are part of us and they want us to include them. And we've been taught that it's, it's just a tree, we don't even, there are, I don't even, on some land that my family has owned, my dad was going to cut down a bunch of trees and sell them. And it was just heartbreaking to me. It was like, they're not just a commodity. They're alive. They feed us everything we need. The trees change the quality of the air. They add to the quality of the air and the quality of the water, because they keep that water cycle going. They are protectors of the feminine. And the water is feminine. So those trees do stand as sentinels for the water, taking it up into their roots and bringing it back down.
Trees are very important here because they stop flooding. No, if there were no trees, all of
Absolutely.
Ireland would already be underwater, and it's so frustrating trying to convince people that that's the case. And it's not even spiritual; it's scientifically proven. Trees are part of the whole process of climate change, or stopping climate change and global warming.
Yeah. And here in Arizona, the state has put aside over $1 million to offer to ranchers to cut down the juniper trees on their grazing lands because they're taking up too much water, taking water away from the cattle. I mean, really, it boggles my mind. How can that thinking, I mean, supposedly everything that's going on is based in science. There's no science to cutting down trees to save water. I mean, it's just a crazy thought, but it's happening, and so many resources are going toward that. So that's just an example of what happens with imbalance. And nature is constantly trying to rebalance herself. And she's in a struggle now because we're creating imbalance faster than she can restore it. And so, I mean, that's part of why I do what I do. It's really important that people know and come back to it's about remembering that connection is absolutely necessary right now. And that's putting it mildly. So, is there anything anyone else would like to share? As we grow our awareness of all of the elements and the relationship within those elements, between those elements, it is a partnership. All of nature is a partnership. So let me just ask this and see what comes to you. How can we take all of that understanding into shift our own perspective and our own willingness and ability to be partners with nature? We can use nature as our model and listen to her and learn how to do that. But I'm sure that all of you have experience in that. What have you learned from nature that has helped you to be a better partner with her? Martina, did you want to say something? No? Okay.
I might have a good example. Last summer I have a friend who lives in Spain, and they're sort of living off grid, and it's like yeah, it's sort of it's a very beautiful, very natural place, although it's full with all ancient I don't know how you call them, with olive trees and almond trees. The whole area has always been used by that, but now yeah, lots of that land has become available because the people apparently can't live from that anymore, or I don't know. And then other people, like my friend, they can buy a piece of land quite big for not so much money. So there's a lot of people from Holland going in the direction of Spain and Portugal, and also to restore nature, to live in balance with nature. Mm. And when I was there, she was, I feel so tearful, even starting this story. So she said what they do actually, because there's so much drought, there is an old water basin, and they fill it with water for the animals that are there. So they go with a truck and they get water someplace, and then they bring it there, and then they let it stream into this pond. Amazing. Yeah, beautiful that they do this. And when we were driving to do that, they were saying, actually today they are going to decide on whether there's going to be solar panel, like a park of solar panels.
Okay.
Also parks with windmills. And actually, if you dive a little bit into how they are made and how unsustainable they are and how they destruct nature, and it's also windmills, it's like terrible. It's like, you know, sustainable energy is not, you can't make it when you are destroying nature. I mean, that's it doesn't make sense. And there are many of these companies seeing that area as a great place to do that. So there are many people, there are several projects for that. And she is like with a group of people talking to the mayor of this village and that village. And then I said, okay, that is today, we should, you know, let's do ceremony, let's pray. And so we did that as we were sitting at that water when the water was being for the animals just flowing in, and we were just meditating in silence. And then this beautiful bird, it's amazing, it has beautiful colors, it's a bee eater, and it came flying from the place where the water was running in, so over the car, and then above the pond or this water thing, it was sort of hanging in the air for a short moment, and she was flying like this. It was like hanging there at the center of this water, and then she flew off, and I really felt like, whoa, that's such a blessing. You know, I felt so blessed. And then later in the evening, we did a meditation again, and we were connecting with all of nature, with the trees, with, you know, with the presence of nature. And it feels very, very strong. We were only 3 people, and we had a candle, and we had our intention. And the trees were also so present. And I felt like, wow, there is such power. So we as humans, I felt like we only need to have a clear intention, but the nature itself has a lot of power. So that power then can come in to join with our intention to stop those projects. But she said, well, you know, we don't, and that's something I really admire in her. She says, we don't know what is the best outcome, because you never know, if they don't do it here, they might do it somewhere else. So it's like, you know, you have to leave the outcome open, but the intention is that for the benefit of all and for nature, that it is being preserved. And then the next day, it was really nice. We heard that these decisions were cancelled for the moment. So there was a delay. And then we did another, she did it with people there, and I joined in from here. And then there were, some of these projects were cancelled. Like they were, you know, like, no, it's not going to happen. But it's like new ones coming and coming in. So it's like it's an ongoing thing. But I was really so impressed with the presence of nature and the power that's within there. And it's the same as what I shared yesterday with the water meditation. It's like, if we humans have a certain intention, these powers of nature, spirits of nature, they come and support us. They can. There's a lot of energy in there.
They do.
It's my impression.
That's such a good example. I mean, you said there's only 3 people. 3 people together with unified intention to support healing can make a huge difference. One of us praying and holding space for that can make a difference. Everything, every thought, word, and action that we put into the web of life makes a difference. We talked about that yesterday. So Yeah. And with this whole piece, the foundational piece of the masculine and the feminine, which is the foundation of everything. And bringing, using the telescope, I guess, to see that bigger picture. There are spiritual authorities. Some people call them spirit guides. There, and everything has a mother and a father. The earth, Mother Earth, has a mother and a father who are spiritual authorities. And then there are spiritual grandmothers and, you know, grandfathers and um, the ancient ones who still remember the original agreements and are still holding that space. And so at one point,
Yes.
yeah, and I would love to hear your thought on that. I'm just going to share one piece, and then anything you want to add to that, Roxanne, I would be really pleased. So the point I was gonna make is that at one point I've been working with some elders in Colombia. A whole group of us are in communication with them, and they offer consultations because they have never forgotten how to communicate directly with the mother with absolute clarity. And they do it every day. I mean, it's an ongoing living prayer that their connection with her is alive and the communication flows. And so what they shared with us is that the mother was dying. She was like on her deathbed. And that the spiritual authorities came to her parents and grandparents and the elders came to her and said, "What are you doing? Why are you allowing your children to destroy you? You must speak up. You must do something. And if you don't, we will." And so Mother Earth spoke to her children, her first children, the elements. She said, "Will you please help me speak to the people, the humans, to help them remember, help them understand that we are all connected, and what they do to me, they are doing to themselves." And so the elements said, "You got it, Mom. You got it. Yes, dear mother, we will support you in that." And all of what we call global warming is that. I mean, yes, there may be a bigger cycle that the earth is in, but the symptoms of the global heating is the fact that the mother is ill. She has a fever. We have made her sick. And I think it was the Dalai Lama said, Mother Earth knows how to heal. Humans just have to stop poisoning her. And so far, that has not stopped. It hasn't changed. And I'm hoping that I can play a role in that. I'm not hoping, I am intending to play a role in that. So we are being communicated with by the elements, by Mother Earth on a moment-to-moment basis. But many, many people still are not listening. They're not choosing to wake up, basically, I guess, because if they're not awake at this point and haven't come to understand that the dynamic that is happening is depleting life everywhere. The waters, I mean, we're talking about the masculine here, but the waters are at a point where, and I shared this yesterday, we will not have a drop of pure water left on the planet unless we speak up. We have to speak up if we want to support the water and the earth and all life, because water is life. So that piece with the water and I mentioned too when we talked about water that the springs coming up, being birthed from the earth, are the children of the rivers, are the children of the element of water. And they too are being poisoned. And what we're seeing happening to the children on the planet is a reflection of that. because what we do to nature, we do to ourselves. So there are so many pieces to all of this. And listening and remembering are key to that. Roxanne, did you want to share something?
Oops, here we go. Yes, I agree with you 100%. She is crying out for us, but that's what we are. We're that connection with her.
Yes.
They're the 13 grandmothers. And I met a woman who is Navajo. She has a group that is around the world that blesses vases. They're in ceremony. And I took one because I live at the headwaters of the Platte River up in Colorado. I'm at 9,000 feet.
Oh, wow.
And what we are doing at this point, those vessels are being connected all around water sources. So I took this to the on my property, buried this vessel, and it is now connected with the net of light to protect the waterways. There are groups of us out there, so take heart. We are helping the mother. We may seem like we are a small group, but we're a very powerful group, and it is men and women. But the women, it is their time to step up, and it
Absolutely.
is happening. And
Hi,
we
Joe.
must be aware that our prayers and our intentions are blessings to Mother Earth. So thank you for letting me.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for doing that. One of the organizations that I work with were informed about some land at the headwaters of the Verde River here in Arizona, which is the last perennial river left in Arizona, free flowing. And
Yes.
it's going to be destroyed if we don't step in. So we were asked to purchase this land before it even came on the market. And it was it's 70, almost 74 acres. And we prayed and we said, if this is supposed to happen, please support us because we don't know where we're going to find the money to do this. And the money came. And we were able to secure the headwaters. But the land that is adjacent to the land that we purchase is where the aquifer is that feeds 80% of the flow of the Verde River. And there's a big Chino pipeline that's supposed to go through. And if that happens, that aquifer will eventually be drained, just like all the other aquifers and the rivers that have already dried up. So yeah, we've been praying, we've been doing a lot of healing work for the Verde River. And you pray for one river and you pray for all of them, just like, the network that connects all the trees. They know one tree receives a prayer and all trees receive the prayer. And when I learned that Mother Earth was on her deathbed, I did a meditation and I knew that there was nothing that I wanted to ask of her. If my mother were on her deathbed, I wouldn't want something from her. I would want to support her. So I said, how can I support you? And she said, be my strength. And that's what I've been working toward ever since. That was a number of years ago. So we do make a difference. And praying for the water, we know changes it. Veda Austin's work is amazing. And you probably are all aware of Emoto's work. His beautiful photography has been around for a while. We know that it makes a difference and we need to live that every day. Martina, your hand is up. So yes.
Yes, totally agree with you, Deborah. Praying, blessings, they do totally work because we need to understand we're not just healing the waters on the earth on a physical level. We gotta aim what's underneath the underneath, whether you call it the spiritual world, the energetic world, because I don't know if you guys ever heard of negative entities, negative spirits, or something like that. They can have effects on the physical world and nature, and they can actually create antisocial behavior and like a lower consciousness in humans that results in humans kind of disrespecting the earth. It's like a vicious cycle. And I want to share a quick story of this as a very good example. There used to be a park in a housing estate in the city of Cork. Now, before the housing estate was built, that park was a graveyard. When the housing estate got permission to be built, all the bodies had to be moved. Now, you think the church in charge of that graveyard, or it would have had the common sense to go out and do a blessing or something just to ease the passing of the spirit, because they were disturbing people's graves. They were shifting them. That was not the case. So the bodies got shifted, the graveyard got moved, and the housing estate was built, and the park like a park was built where the graveyard was. And that's when the troubles started.
Of course.
Antisocial behavior was rampant. Drugs, alcohol, fires. It was just gangster paradise in this small little parklet in the middle of a housing estate. And it went on for many years until an environmental volunteer organization called Green Spaces for Health got the council's permission to restore it to its former glory, turn it into a proper park. They planted plants, native wildflowers, native trees. They got all the trash and crap out. However, the antisocial behavior continued, simply because they had covered the physical aspects, but they hadn't covered the source of the problem, which was, go back, the removal of the bodies. See, the bodies were gone, but the spirits were still there.
And they were never honored. Yeah.
They were kicking up a fuss. So luckily, the manager of the environmental organization, she kind of had a very open mind at this thing, and she knew about the graveyard and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe she sensed something, maybe she knew something just wasn't right, because she got in contact with a local Buddhist temple and asked a bunch of Buddhist nuns and monks to come down to the garden and do a blessing. They came, they prayed, they meditated, they chanted, they eased the suffering of the spirits. Antisocial behavior went down 10%. It was like a switch went off. So I guess the moral of the story is, when we're trying to heal the waters and the earth and protect the planet, we can't forget that it's more than just physical work, that blessings and prayers and meditation are important, because that's what's going to raise the consciousness, that's what's going to disconnect us from whatever negative energy or entities are around. And that's how I believe we're really going to make a difference.
Absolutely. We do make a difference. And when a tree is cut down, what I've learned is to go to the stump, the whatever's left, because sometimes that happens and we can't control it. And I prayed over and sealed the stump so that the energy would go back down into the earth, because the roots of the tree bring the energy of the earth up and out. And unless there is a ceremony for that tree afterwards, that energy continues to come up and out, but it doesn't support life, because the water cycle is disrupted, because the leaves can't transpire. So it's a drain of energy. It's like blowing a hole in the mother's aura. And so we can, with love and prayer, seal that tree stump so that the energy stays with Mother Earth.
And if you happen to catch it in time, like if you know a construction is about to happen and a bunch of trees are about to be chopped down, if you can go to the trees, warn them and say, okay, you gotta get out of here. You gotta sink down into the earth and move somewhere else because they're coming and they're gonna chop it down. So do a ceremony or a blessing, and that even makes it better, I think.
Because
Sort of
they can,
you can't stop the physical destruction, but you can have an effect on the energy of the place so that bad vibes don't happen in the new whatever buildings or anything like that.
yeah. And it's critical because there is so much of that negativity that we see every day, and it feels overwhelming sometimes. It's like, that question, how can I make a difference? It's like, well, I don't know yet, but I'm going to. We can, it's just important that we do that. And I just totally lost my train of thought. Wow, it's just not there. But if it needs to come back, it will. Yeah, that just was there and gone. So, Sari, you would like to speak.
Yeah, meanwhile, you might remember what you want to say. I was just, thank you for sharing what we can do with the trees that are cut down. That's very, very helpful. And I've been wondering because what also happens to me is that, for example, not so far from where I live, I was just admiring and happy that certain tall trees were there, and I was just like, whoa, it's so beautiful that these trees are there. And then so acknowledging them, being grateful for them, and then very soon after they were all cut. And I was so shocked, and I was like, and it happened to me before. There was a in another place where I lived, there was a forest where I always used to go, and there was this beautiful don't know the name in English, but anyway, beautiful huge tree. And I was walking there, and this there was a very fine network of nature there, because it hadn't been, nothing had been done to it for a long time. And I was walking on this tree, and then sometimes this happens, and I feel so blessed because then they let their leaves fall down as I pass by, and then I always.
Oh, you're frozen, Sari. We're not hearing you.
Next time I.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, you're back.
So the next I went there, this tree was cut, and yeah, for me it's like it's almost like, oh, when a certain tree catches my eye, and I am just grateful that it's there, is it going to be cut?
Join the meeting.
Do I, in a way, sense that they need gratitude? I don't know what happens there, but I find it, I find it difficult. On the one hand, I feel like I'm happy I acknowledge them. And it's good to know that when they're cut, I can, and in that place, it wasn't even possible. I mean, they were uprooted even, so there was nothing I could do. But in the other forests where I love to go, this happens too. And I now know what I can do, at least with the stump that is left there. And I also heard, that's another thing, and I was wondering if that's the right thing to do, is that close to our home, trees were being cut. They didn't tell us, and we felt terrible. There was always an owl coming there, and then somebody told me that you can take stones and then ask the spirits of the trees to move in, and then you can bring them to the forest, to another place. So that's something that we did. But then listening to you, I thought, oh yeah, but we took stones also. they also got moved. So, yeah.
Well, and,
And-
and what I suggested yesterday, if for whatever reason moving stones or taking stones is necessary, then send a prayer, into the ones that remain, and and asking permission is always important. I just douse. I use my body as a pendulum, and I very rarely take anything from nature these days. But, before I understood, I would find a rock or a stone or something, and it would be like, oh, it's the shape of a perfect heart, and I used to collect them. And now I don't do that anymore. But saying that prayer, even towards the end of the times when I was doing that, I would ask permission. I would hold it up to my heart, ask if it was appropriate and life-giving for me to take that with me. And if I move forward, back and forth, forward is yes and back is no. That's just the way I do it. Because if I do it sideways, I'm going to fall over. But if I got a no, I would never, ever take it. And if I got a yes, I picked up the second rock, prayed for both of them, and left the one with the prayer for all the other rocks to share with all the other rocks, because there is consciousness there. So, and anything, there is so much that we can do that seems, to some people, it seems silly, but it's not silly. It's not at all silly. There was one example. It was after my divorce, actually. Well, it was in between my leaving a marriage of 21 years, because it just wasn't serving me, and the divorce. But I was walking on the beach because that always brought me solace. I lived in Maine at the time. And when I first got to the beach, after I just moved out, and I got to the beach for the first time to be with the water, and I looked down, and right where I was ready to start walking along the shore, there was a live upside down sand dollar right there. And I hadn't seen a live sand dollar for quite a while. And it was upside down. And I knew that it couldn't move because all of its feet are on the bottom, and that it was just laying there vulnerable to seagulls and anything else that might take it. So I just, knowing what it feels like to have my life turned upside down, and totally appreciating that, because that's what it felt like for me, I turned the sand dollar over. And then I continued my walk, and just a couple of steps, there was another live sand dollar right on my path. And I turned it over. And I giggled to myself. It's like, this is really cool. I'm helping these to right themselves, and I'm needing that myself. So, and so every couple of steps, 6 times, I turned over sand dollars. And then about the 6th one, I reached down to turn it over, and I thought, I wonder if I'm scaring this sand dollar. It doesn't know that I'm going to be here. It doesn't know that what my intention is, unless I send that intention with the action. So I started doing it very compassionately and lovingly, and turned over one sand dollar after another sand dollar in that way, all of them right on my path. And after about a dozen of them, I reached down to turn the next sand dollar over. And I saw my hand as it was much bigger than my hand. And it was white, a greenish white translucent light. And I reached down and continued the process of turning that sand dollar over. And I heard a message from Source, from God, from the spiritual authorities, whatever you want to call that. But the message clearly said, there, you have been upside down, and now I am writing you. And talk about instant reciprocity. And after that, there was not one more sand. I continued walking for miles. There was not one more sand dollar. So it's like the ducks. you know, they were gone. After I got the message, integrated it and understood it, there was no more reason for the messenger. So it's incredible how nature wants to partner with us. Nature needs us to remember. And as we remember, she begins to heal. And so do we. From that moment forward, I had no more concern about where I was going to go, what I was going to do. And I left. I left my home, my kids, they were teenagers, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And I got a clear message that told me to leave. And I was horrified. It was like, I mean, I'd been miserable for 21 years in the marriage part, just about 21, maybe the first couple of years were okay, but it wasn't serving me. It hadn't been for a long time, but it got to a point where the message was clear. It's time to go. And so I did, totally trusting, but not knowing how the heck I was going to do anything, because I didn't even take any money from the bank, from our bank account or anything. I left. I had 88 cents in my pocket at the time, and I left. And it all worked out perfectly. So that's, a leap of faith, total trust. But when we trust and when we work with nature, when we're willing to listen, she does respond. And all of the resources we need are always available. When we work that as a whole, working in partnership with all of the partners in nature. It's, I don't think there's anything more powerful than that, because we're stepping back into unity. And remember, we said yesterday, for those, for, I guess, Roxanne and Sarah, we've lost a couple. I think David's internet is off too, so he probably isn't holding the signal. But we talked about how, oops, he's back. 1 second. Yeah. Anyways, he's coming. But we talked about how when the masculine and the feminine are totally unified in balance and harmony, what is birthed in that union is love. And when we are doing that, whether we're in relationship with another person or not, when we are doing that, we become a love factory, basically. I mean, we are constantly generating love. How powerful is that? Love is what is that pure unconditional love is what is missing in the world. That pure unconditional love that is filled with compassion, with the feminine principles, because the feminine has been squelched. Unfortunately, it's been intentional by a wounded masculine who doesn't remember, who has got the worst case of amnesia that you can imagine. And the women stepping up and healing ourselves intentionally, because we are in by the thousands all over the world. This 7 days of rest is an example of that. There are people in classes all over the world coming together to heal, to remember. And when we do that, it opens a place that is safe for the masculine to then begin to consider being willing to be vulnerable. Because from a masculine perspective, vulnerability is weakness. Women have been in a vulnerable state for a long time. And that piece has been handed down by the mitochondrial DNA from the matriarchal bloodline to help women transcend ego. We have been made to be vulnerable and to, in some ways, accept that vulnerability. But that willingness to be vulnerable has kept us open to remember these connections. It's a necessary part of it. We can't be invulnerable and be in receiving mode. And the feminine is the receiver. And we have received some things that have not been pleasant, that have not been life-giving. But we are coming out of a place now where we will no longer accept that. We can be vulnerable, but not accept things that are not life-giving. And when we can hold that space of knowing who we are, taking off the mask and showing the world who we really are at the essence of our being, then it is an invitation for others to join that space. So, one at a time. And then when those who are in a conscious healing process come together like this, it becomes more powerful. And we need to continue to stay connected. That's an important part. This is a beautiful 7-day process, but it doesn't end. It's not meant to end at the 7 days. That container needs to extend and overflow into every day for the years to come, so that we leave this experience, and each of these experiences, changed. But anyway, I don't want to do all the talking, and I can, so I need to just shut myself off every once in a while, and probably my forgetting what I was going to say was the universe saying, okay, time to hear others. Would anyone like to share anything? There's so much richness here. And one thing I would like to say directly, I mean, it's for the benefit of everyone, but for you, Roxanne, I've been, I'm on a path to support the water, to bring the water back and to bring pure water back. And I've been doing research for years, basically since 2012 with the water. And what I'm learning has not been what I wanted to hear. And recently I was on a Zoom presentation with some water deciders, I'll just call them that, in the state of Arizona, about the Colorado water rights. And natives were, the original people here were never consulted when that pact was created in 1942. And the governments were sued, and the original people were given water rights by edict of the court because they had a right to be a part of that. What I've learned in this meeting was that the state of Arizona is going to tribal leaders, offering to buy their Colorado River water rights, to buy them back. And this is probably happening in Colorado too. I don't know that. But I just wanted you to be aware of this because it's really important. They're offering to buy the Colorado River water rights in exchange for giving for free all the water that they want. And there are several tribes, and I don't know the exact ones off the top of my head, but several tribes have said, okay, we'll sell our water rights to you and we'll get free water forever and you'll just deliver it to us. Well, what I learned is that water is coming directly from the sewage treatment plants. It's treated sewage called effluent. And they're unloading it from the tanks and bringing it to the tribes. And I cannot live with that knowledge. Yeah. It's horrifying to me. And it needs to get out there. And I've tried to contact a number of tribal leaders, and you know, I'm a white person and I understand. I totally honor the fact that I've never received a phone call back, and I've made a lot of calls. So it just is important that that somebody know that, and under no circumstances. They're offering a pretty good price, evidently, because they want it to be, I mean, they want control of that water. And the lies continue. Unfortunately, I just need to get the word out. So I'm offering that to you, Roxanne, and anyone else who may have.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's, yeah, I can barely talk about it without crying. And I cried
Deborah,
weeks after I learned it. Susan, yes?
have you tried to contact Patricia Ann Davis? She's
Oh,
denied.
yes, I know her.
She
I don't
might be able to help.
That's such a great idea. Thank you. I can't believe I didn't. I mean, I just learned this
And
recently.
Chief Phil Lane, I mean, I know he doesn't live in that area, but if you're having a hard time getting people to get back to you, maybe they could communicate with those people and then it could open that bridge for you.
Thank you for that reminder. I will absolutely contact her. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So what I'm finding is, I mean, I could, with everything I'm learning, I could go right down the rabbit hole and have every bit of life force sucked out of me, because it's horrifying. But what I'm doing is transmuting that into motivation, transmuting that into empowerment. And it's really important that we all find a way, whatever works for us, to be able to know what's happening so that we can be empowered to know what is needed to shift it. So I'm still learning more and more every day. And each time I learn something that I don't want to know, it's like, okay, that's one reality, but we can shift this to another reality. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time. And the more of us who are doing that, the less time it will take. So, David, were you going to say? Oh no, I thought you turned your mute off for a second. Did you want to say anything, David? Maybe not. I know that your reception isn't good, so okay. So, anyways, that's a piece I hadn't thought of bringing in, but I think it's just one more example of the level of negativity that we're working with. And whenever you walk into a dark room, we have this beautiful metaphor of flipping a switch, and there's no more darkness. The light's on, and we can flip the switch together. We each have an internal dimmer switch, and many of us, for a long time, I was always turning mine down because it was too hard to be light in an area where nobody wants to see the light. But I've started just turning it up, and sometimes I actually do that little motion to remind myself to turn up my dimmer switch. Whenever there's too much darkness, the only remedy is light. Whenever there's too much fire, the best remedy is water, the feminine. We need to bring ourselves into this this puzzle piece, into the equation. So this is about, and it doesn't have to, and not everyone is meant, I said this yesterday, not everyone is meant to be a Joan of Arc. We don't all need to be out in the forefront of it. I'm choosing that for my own reasons, because I'm being called. I mean, it's just, I'm not going to reject a call from the mother or the water. And I'm a Cancer in my charts, and with Scorpio rising, and I have 4 planets in Cancer. I'm all water, and there's a reason for that. So that's just what I'm here to do. But we all find our way to whatever our purpose is, and the universe will support us in fulfilling that. The water being diverted is all the dams that have been put in the rivers has changed the trajectory of the purpose of water and the purpose of woman. And some dams are coming down now. Many dams are being taken out because women are speaking up, and it's changing at that energetic level that Martina talked about. So what we're holding energetically, spiritually, in our hearts, in our whole essence and our whole being, and overflowing out of us, is changing things. And that the speed of that change is increasing. We can feel it. And in the process of that, we must stay balanced within ourselves, in the masculine and the feminine. Wow, it's 1 minute before. Yes, we have 1 minute.
I don't know. Maybe it's better for you to finish it.
No. Is it something that you can share relatively?
Yeah, we were connecting with the fire, and last night I had I didn't sleep much because I was like processing things also in relationship with my mother, realizing certain things and having to digest it and let go of certain energies. But then in the end, I had a little candle. Oh, something else is coming through.
Yeah, I think Kivka, can you mute your microphone, please?
Hey, I'm on my phone, so I'm not sure if I can do that. I maybe just finish the meeting so you can.
Okay.
I leave. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much. All right.
But the nice thing was, so then I, because I went out of bed and sat down with a candle, and then at a certain point, I really felt I need to go, after releasing a lot of things, often you just need holding. Yeah? Yes. Otherwise, it's sort of, you get back into it. And I felt the candle was actually, the fire was actually, I could feel like, oh, I can rest now in peace, like in the womb. I was just on the floor I just wanted to stay there. But the fire was really my protector at that moment. And that was so beautiful and reminded me of a message I received once, also in difficult times. Like, if you're in the darkness, even if you turn on the light, if you don't have a candle, that already represents the fire and is then protecting you. It was really because I had like entities, I was too open, and I just wanted to share that because we were also connecting with the lights of the fire. I have it here.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. Oh, that's gorgeous. And that is, as we're summing up this gathering, remember that the purpose of woman is to nurture and nourish all life along her path until she returns to unity, in her case, in the ocean. The purpose of the masculine is to protect all life. And when both of those are being done, when all life is protected and nourished and nurtured, all life thrives. So when the masculine and the feminine are in balance, we have harmony. We have thrivability, if there is such a word. And so reaching that within ourselves, and the fire, turning to the elements, when we know that we just feel overwhelmed and too vulnerable, you know, then we need more masculine energy. We can, if we don't have a male that we can turn to for support, we always have the elements of air and fire. And tuning into those elements will bring that sense of protection back, because those are the masculine elements. They carry those principles, and they know they do protect us. All of the elements can be out of balance. We know that the river can recede, and she is receding more and more, especially in the Southwest. But she's being abused, and it's time for her to leave. I mean, I totally understand why she's receding. I would do the same. I did do the same, you know? So I get that. And we can feel whole no matter what we have for human support. It's not that we want to reject human support, but it's few and far between when we get to a level of awareness that all of us are at. There's a level of support that the average, I mean, this isn't a judgment or anything, but it's just a realization, an observation that many people don't know how to support me, because I'm flying a little higher than they can reach most of the time. And that's my choice. I choose that. I've had flying dreams my whole life, and I kind of like it. And at the same time, I'm more grounded than I've ever been. So the reach that I have now has increased. And that serves me to be able to do what I'm doing. So tuning into the elements when that protection feels, like you just said so beautifully, Sari, thank you. We can turn to the fire, and Roxanne, you said too that fire brings you peace, because we feel safe in the warmth of a fire. So the masculine is, you know, both the feminine and the masculine have been so distorted. And in the process of that, our concept of love has been very distorted. But when we go to the pure source, where we can find that pure love and fill with it through our breath, through that beautiful air element that we can take in, with the fire behind it, and the water, absorb that into our inner waters. This will be the closing meditation, because I have another meeting to go to, but bringing that fire and that air down, breathe it in, breathe it throughout your whole body into the depth of your inner waters to purify them, because this is the pure light and the pure love that exists within that light. And it's the movement of that is the principle of air and fire working in partnership. Open your inner waters to receive the elements of air and water, air and fire, and feel that going into your inner waters and absorbing into the matter, the subatomic particles and the atoms and the cells and molecules. Bring it into your water and earth and feel it integrating into unity. And in that integrative unity, there is a consummation, a sacred consummation, where love is birthed. And this can be an ongoing birthing process with every breath that we take when we breathe in this way. And we become a source of love. We become one with the source of love is actually a better way to say that. Because we have united, welcomed the wholeness of life back into our own beingness. And then we begin to thrive because the protection and the flow of emotions and the flow of communication from all aspects of life, every dimension, all timelines is inside us. The unified field that holds all life together throughout the cosmos is inside us. 99% of all that we are is space. It's the unified field. All of those resources that are available to us are within us. We don't have to go outside of ourselves to find ourselves, to find our unity, to remember who we are, because we are that. Breathe in the truth that you feel from those words. Let yourself remember the next level of your remembering. In total gratitude to the principles of the feminine and the principles of the masculine and the agreements that we made in the origins to nurture and nourish and protect all life. Is awakening in each one of us on a whole new level. And we will never not know what we know in this moment again. We will never not know it. Because we have chosen to awaken it from within us. And that is the task of humanity, to choose to wake up, to choose to remember our agreements in the origins, and to keep those agreements with Mother Earth and the cosmos, so that we may heal the hole that humanity has put in the cosmos by forgetting the sacred relationship between the masculine and the feminine in all of its aspects in the web of life. With deep gratitude, we honor this time together. We honor the elements, our brothers and sisters. We honor Mother Earth, Father Sun, Grandmother Moon. We honor the spiritual authorities. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us in each ongoing moment. And we continue to learn and open and grow and remember. We ask this with a pure heart, and we know that it is done. It is done, it is done, it is done, and it begins in the cycle of life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Blessed be. And so it is. So beautifully powerful. Thank you, Roxanne. If you want to stay in touch, we'd love to have you join us for the whatever days remaining of the 7 days that you can. And if you want to put your email in the chat, I will be able to stay connected with you as well. So thank you so much for all of you being here. Thank you, David, for holding up the male, that masculine piece in embodiment. It's nice to have you here joining us. Blessed be to all of you. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you so
And
much.
we'll be talking about love tomorrow, I believe. Yeah. Thank you,
Very
guys.
good. Thank you.